Good evening. Today, it's 6:30 and a quorum being present. I call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda, there's no approval of minutes, so we'll go straight to agenda item A. Public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc. of Andover, Massachusetts, on behalf of Yvonne Comier, Vale Street, Assessors Map 112, lots 23, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, DP file number 305-1146. Is there anybody here for that? Not seeing anybody. Joseph, do you have any idea if they will?
It's to be continued.
Oh, that's to be continued.
For A? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, in that case, could I have a motion to continue this notice of intent?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, agenda item B, public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc. on behalf of Arnie Martell, 70 Fraser Lane, Assessors Map 25, Lot 86, DEP file number 305-1158. This is being withdrawn without prejudice. Could I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Agenda item C, public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc. on behalf of Arnie Martell, Fraser Lane paving project, DEP file number 305-1157. Could I have a motion to continue this?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, and finally, request for certificate of compliance, AJM Development, Inc., 15 Starbird Ave, subdivision DEP file number 305-998. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Dick Cuco, Woodland Design, representing the applicant. We completed the resodding of the area that had been washed out, and there was a little bit of debris still left in there, so I had spoken to the applicant about that, and he said, well, he was instructed by the previous conservation administrator, which is outlined in condition 3, that they were supposed to only take out what they could take out by hand. So there was some washout from the loam, the bark mulch that the homeowners had put in there. So they went in, took that mulch away, put sod down so that we won't have any more washout. And there's a little bit of debris that is over into the line, which he would have to go in there and kind of hog it out of there. So he felt that in keeping with the original order, that what Mr. Boyd had told him was, don't touch anything in that 25 feet that you can't pick out by hand, and it'll eventually revegetate itself. So that's what he did. So.
Joseph.
Yeah. So yeah, everything for this project, for the certificate of compliance, they provided an as-built. They rectified the drainage issue by installing the sod, and they had deeded over the open space parcel as required in the order. That's the first I am hearing about that perspective on cleaning up the remnants of the drainage issue. It's just the sand at the bottom. It's not, you don't have to bring in heavy machinery, but
He's just going by what he was told. And findings under municipal wetland bylaw and ordinance, paragraph 3C, trash in wetland areas shall be removed by hand. So,
but that was prior to an issue that occurred at the site.
yeah, but it's really, I think it'll revegetate itself. It's not that much here in that area, so that's what he's saying.
It's really a small lift to get that to just clean out whatever sediment has washed out, but it's obviously subject to the commission's opinion.
We don't have any,
Do you have any pictures or any
yeah,
information?
because these pictures are pretty, at this point, September, I think. But we don't have anything from what it looks like prior to that, or at least like, we see the drainage issue, but not the washout that occurred.
Let's see. Yeah, that's it improved. Just like that's the drainage issue itself. But from months of washout, it's just, sand and sediment at the bottom, but it's, again, it's just a small, it's no bigger than the size of this table, but you might as well clean it up if it was placed there.
Well, it's gonna revegetate, even if we scrape it out, it's still gonna be the same afterwards, so it's just, doesn't seem like it's that big of an area that would warrant going in there and taking the sand out and disturbing what's underneath that soil.
I kind of agree with Mr. Kukoc on that, if it's vegetated now, why interrupt?
It's not vegetated.
It's not vegetated, but still,
It hasn't had time, there's still
Yeah.
sand.
I just don't see the sense if it's just sand or dirt or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's not in the wetlands, it's still in that buffer zone area. If it was in the wetlands, it'd be a different story.
But it's not trash or anything, it's just sediment.
Accumulated sediment over time.
I don't have a problem with it.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Has all the trash been removed?
Yes,
Yeah.
a few tires that are out there quite a ways, but we want to take those out because it would cause more disruption than, but all the trash that was in the immediate area, yeah, that had been taken away.
All right, Joseph, do you have any other questions or comments or outstanding issues?
Outside of that, I don't. I think, the commission is obviously up to you guys on how you want to proceed with that and how you want to manage that, but
If I'm looking at a site plan, where exactly is this issue?
Directly opposite the driveway, the two driveways, the first two driveways on the left. On the right-hand side, there was a lawn area. Well, originally there was lawn in there, and then the homeowners went in and took the grass out because they didn't want to cut it, and they put,
down that.
This down here?
so they put mulch in because they didn't want to mow out there, and so we went back and planted it, didn't take, so then he said, put sod in, and then he spoke to the homeowners, and he said, you're cutting the grass now anyway, so you go another 15 feet, don't put mulch back in there, so they agreed.
Do you know how far the sediment has traveled?
It's under 25. based on the
Yeah,
plan.
it's basically right up to the obvious wetland boundary. It's like-
My concern is that this is, it's what not just the former conservation agent said, it's the one before the former one, and this is kind of the first we're hearing about the, this part of the drainage issue. And, it doesn't seem like it would be that much of a issue to get rid of the sand that has gone in there. We've spent this much time going over and trying to fix the problem, and this is the last bit of it to take care of. So, Joseph, you don't know anything about it's in the
It's right near the wetland boundary. My question would be, was this issue caused because the construction wasn't done based off the plans? Or was it done based off the plans and this occurred? And then they had to modify it?
Well, it was done by the plan, and then the homeowners come in and interrupted it. And now the builder put it back the way it was according to the plan.
So the erosion was caused by modifying the plan, essentially?
Yeah, by the homeowner,
By the
yeah.
homeowner.
The homeowner's not the one who's got a bond out there.
Yeah.
And then they come to us and say, oh, I need a certificate of compliance because I can't sell my house. Well, stop messing with the plan.
Yeah, I can see it from both sides, that it's really not that much going in there.
Yep.
And at this point, it's not, the issue was not, it does not seem to be caused by, you know, the construction company that built these homes. So where do we stand? I'm comfortable taking a motion to ratify the certificate of compliance, but
I as well. I'm fine with it.
all right, do I have a motion to that effect?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, all those opposed?
Aye.
The deciding vote. I think I'm gonna go nay. Yeah, it does seem that it's not that big of a pull to get that extra sediment out of where it's traveling into the wetlands, and it's right on the side of it.
Okay.
So I just had a question. If it's, is it a denial of the certificate of compliance or just continued until that?
I guess my intention was that it was,
Vote was taken, it was denied.
Okay.
Basically, we didn't make a motion to continue. The motion was made to approve, and it was 3-2, so it was denied.
So where does that leave us? We have to reapply?
so this is, yeah, I mean, yeah,
I think you can amend your vote.
what's that?
I think if the parties that are in the majority wish to amend the vote to continue, they can.
I think I would rather,
I'm not saying to change the vote, I'm just saying to get
Yes.
it back to so it's a continued item as opposed to,
it might be under the same, it might be the same result, but to continue, or not to continue, but to deny it without prejudice, so you can
yeah, but
bring
then
it.
I have to refile and go through paying the fees and the whole 9 yards.
Basically, the only thing that would be affected is a filing fee.
Notice, you know,
Well, there wouldn't be
Yeah.
a notice for the request, but it would just be another filing fee. It would be the same paperwork being submitted.
Yeah,
But we can also make a motion to not have them pay the filing fee.
well, what about that?
But it may suggest, is the certificate of compliance being handled in a public hearing that's been advertised?
No.
No.
Yeah, so it's, you have a lot of leeway in how you can handle this.
Yeah. I think you could reconsider and just
yeah,
continue.
if you two are,
I'm cool with continuing
Yeah.
it, just
all right,
fix it and come back. I
yeah,
got
I'm
no
just,
issue.
I want to make sure that we're doing everything.
I mean, my only
correctly.
comment, this is a direct result of the homeowner. This isn't a you know, they modified the property, they got runoff, let's fix it. You know, let them bear the brunt of it.
If we have to make a motion to continue or to not, to waive the filing fee for the next application, I'm fine with doing that. So, whatever the correct procedures are
Right,
here.
I'm into the easiest one, right?
So could I have a motion to continue? Is it possible to make a a dual motion for continuing and waiving the
I think
filing
the
fee in case?
effect would just be continuing to the next meeting.
All right,
Yeah.
so could I have a motion to continue?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Sorry, it's so complicated.
That was a tough one.
All right. Emergency certification, Hyder Building Associates of LLC of Tewksbury, Massachusetts, 1315 Shawshene Street, Assessors Map 101, Lot 71. Is there anybody here for that? Not seeing anybody. This is an emergency certification. Joseph, could you fill us in on the
Yep,
details?
so this project involves the tying into town sewer, so crushing the septic tank and trenching to the street to install the sewer pipe. This was issued following a order from the health department to tie in after receiving a failed Title V. So an emergency certification was issued by myself on behalf of the Conservation Commission with the following conditions: installing a silt fence and/or straw wattle adjacent to the area of construction such that erosion of disturbed soil is not deposited within wetland resource areas. The silt fence and/or straw wattle is to be installed prior to beginning construction activities. The second condition was coordinate with the conservation agent once the silt fence and/or straw wattle is installed and prior to beginning construction activities. The conservation agent shall approve of the silt fence/straw wattle location and installation. And the commission may ratify the emergency certification if they wish.
Is there any, are there any questions or comments from the commission?
Nope.
I'm good.
In that case, could I have a motion to ratify the emergency certification?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Agenda item F, emergency certification, Hyder Building Associates LLC of Tewksbury, Mass., 20 Wedgewood Road, Assessors Map 7, Lot 39. Don't believe anybody's here for this one either. Joseph, could you fill us in?
Yep, so this is exactly the same as the previous project. It's a failed Title V. Health Department issued an order to tie into town sewer. I followed up with emergency certification with the same conditions as just read off the project prior. So it's the same thing.
Just a quick question for you, Joe. Based off the sketch, is that the wetland boundary where it says no work required beyond this area?
Let me pull it up. No, that's, I think, I don't know if I included field notes, but it's kind of to the northwest corner.
Yeah, this one just had something, another one didn't, so I wasn't sure if it
Oh,
was
okay.
a little bit closer to the wetlands.
Yeah, no,
what was
that's,
going on.
it's about 60 feet away.
Okay.
Yeah, your narrative says 60 feet.
Yep.
All right. Any additional questions or comments from the commission? Could I have a motion to ratify the emergency certification?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. And agenda item G, emergency certification, Beaver Solutions LLC of Southampton, Massachusetts, 333 Main Street, Assessors Map 10, Lot 72. Joseph, could you?
Yep. So within the neighborhood of Jody Drive, I've been receiving complaints about elevated water levels. And so in between Jody Drive and Main Street, 333 Main Street, which is the Walmart property, there's a wetland complex. And there's been a historic beaver issue there. So upon further investigation, visiting the Main Street site, there's a large beaver dam. There's probably a 3 or 4 foot hydraulic gradient across the dam. So that's causing water to back up into residential properties where water's now kind of submerging the base of some pine trees that's in close proximity to residential dwellings. So I went out with the health director who had determined it was an emergency from a health perspective. So again, I followed up with my emergency certification just to get the issue resolved as fast as possible and to alleviate the emergency. So the emergency certification allowed a Beaver Solutions to allow them to breach the dam about 2 feet or so, just to lower the water levels and also to trap beavers. So we're kind of monitoring it on a week-by-week basis. So the conditions with the emergency certification were Beaver Solutions kind of provided their best management practices when it comes to breaching a dam. So the conditions are essentially just reflective of that document.
And the health department are the ones who initially issued the beaver permit here?
Yeah, so the health department and beaver management.
Is this your first beaver
Yeah,
emergency
yeah,
certification?
yeah.
So the health department issues the emergency permit to trap beavers and allow the trapping of beavers. And then I followed up with the breaching of the dam since
Oh,
they
I'm good
actually-
with it, it's just kind of humorous, that's all.
My only question would be number 9 on the
Yeah.
procedures. Are we worrying about wildlife being harmed by doing this too? I don't have a problem with it, I just kind of want to make sure we're doing best practices. Where it kind of says it should be done,
This is their best
yeah,
practice.
spring to late fall. Obviously, we're in winter now.
Yeah, so that is the ideal time. You don't want to, harm. You're not supposed to touch their habitat in the wintertime, but in the case of an emergency, so.
So this, just gonna breach the dam, let it turn, and try to get the beavers.
Yeah, so trap, breach, monitor to see if it's being rebuilt.
And they've already done this.
They're in the process of trapping right now.
All right. Any further discussion?
I have none.
In that case, could I have a motion to ratify the emergency certification?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, agenda item H, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Juan Almonte, 230 North Street, Assessors Map 26, Assessors Map 62, Lot 8. Is there anybody here for that? Could you just introduce yourself for the record?
Good evening, Juan Lamonte from 230 North Street.
Where do we stand right now? We were here previously,
Yeah. So our first visit with the applicant was in response to a violation notice for unpermitted activities, including demo of a shed, garage, porch, and repaving of a driveway. So we had met with them, kind of discussed what had happened and what the next step should be. The commission at the time determined that they were essentially okay with the alteration since it kind of reduced impervious surface at the site. They just wanted to get a permit for it. So the applicant is here today. Basically, the permit would be for the deck that was installed that replaced the porch, the demo of the garage that's now just maintained as, is there a driveway beneath the garage now?
There's a driveway where the old garage was?
Okay,
Yes, yeah.
okay. And the demo of the barn in the back. And I believe the application of like 4 cubic yards of loam? Okay. So,
Quick question, and these, I was a little confused because I did pull a permit to redo the whole house and demo the garage and stuff like that.
yeah, I meant just like with
Oh,
conservation,
Are
yeah.
they,
Yeah.
okay.
So and this is all, in riverfront and floodplain, so the commission would, essentially, based off of the review from the first time, just be okay with the alterations that are, right?
As long as you pulled it, permit.
Right. Yeah.
And he hasn't pulled the permit.
No,
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah,
permit.
yeah.
But he hasn't pulled the permit, an IDA or a notice of intent for us, correct?
Well, that's what this is. This is the idea, yeah.
Because we had a.
Because we were just
enforcement
discussing
order,
that. Yeah.
Or was it?
It was just a violation.
Ah,
notice.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the RDA to kind of just put it in writing that the commission approves of the alteration.
All right, any other discussion?
You guys have any questions?
No, I remember it.
All right. Could I have a motion to approve the determination of applicability for Juan Almonte, 230 North Street?
This is a public hearing.
Oh, yeah, this is a public hearing. Sorry. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody from the public who would like to get up and ask any questions or make any comments, now is the time to do so. But not seeing anybody.
Are you still applying loom or loan?
Yes, that was, yeah, I'm still applying loom
Okay.
where I graded,
Okay.
where,
So I would just keep the, that sill fence in place until that's
Yeah.
all set.
okay,
And so, yeah, it would be an approval of the 4 cubic yards.
yep.
All right. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion to approve the determination of applicability?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Agenda item I, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Richard Bouts, 195 Helvetia Street, Assessors Map 60, Lot 161. Is there anybody here for that?
Good evening. So the proposal is to work within the 100-foot wetland buffer boundary and the 50-foot no-build zone to clear trees and shrubbery and eventually put down a shed in that general area. There would be slight grading of the area depending on where the shed goes, but wouldn't be putting any backfill. It'd be crushed stone for the base of the shed.
And I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you did this. Could you just introduce yourself?
Richard Bouts, 195 Helvetia Street.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any discussion on this? Joseph, do you have any?
How many square feet do you plan on cutting?
I haven't determined that yet. I'm working within that entire zone right now.
How big is the shed gonna be?
It's gonna be a 12 by 16. So, but gonna work within that area to clear around, provide more yard space, and eventually seed that area down the road.
So I can speak to my site visit that I did. So the proposal is to clear vegetation between the 50-foot and the 100-foot buffer zone. There was a previous delineation done at this site back in 2018, I believe. So I had visited the site just to make sure that the delineation that was done was relatively accurate, which I had confirmed based on the flags that were still up in the wetlands. And in addition to that, the developer of that lot had staked out the 100-foot buffer zone, so the applicant has a good reference as far as where the 100-foot buffer zone is, where the wetlands are, so he can just measure out, 50 feet from wherever those stakes are, which are still in place today.
Okay.
And, yeah, so. And the shed would be within the 50-foot to the 100-foot.
That's correct. It wouldn't go past that.
Well, you'd see that again, Joe, with the building permit.
There's no building permit under 200 square feet for a shed in the town.
How many, what size did you say the shed was?
12 by 16 is 196 square feet.
Unless that's just happened, I get permits all the time for.
Yeah, I called town hall and they said anything under 200 square feet.
I thought it was 120.
It actually is on their it's on the building permit website as well.
Oh, well, I get permits for, less than that, but, and that's fine, but for the shed, I would just add the condition that when you go to build the shed, use, some sort of sediment control, so
Sure.
straw wattle or the silt fence. And then in addition to the vegetation cutting, use a similar device, so sediment controls around, like, wherever your extent of vegetation cutting is going to be. Just use that as well during vegetation cutting.
So essentially, you're just expending a yard to clear it out to put a shed.
Essentially.
All right.
In layman's terms, yes.
In layman's terms, yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments from the commission?
I have none.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody from the public who would like to get up and ask a question, now is the time to do so. I'm not seeing anybody. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And so I'm going to take this motion and then go back to the last one real quick. Could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for Richard Bouts, 195 Helvetia Street, Assessors Map 60, Lot 161?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And I'm realizing I asked, this is, yeah, sorry. Just to go back to H, I just want to make sure that I got it correct. I believe I said approved. I just want to take a quick motion for a negative determination of applicability for 1 Almonte 230 North Street. Assessors map 62, lot 8.
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you.
I used to have that.
Good catch, Dan.
All right, agenda item J, public hearing, request for determination of applicability. Matthew Arsenault, 29 Birchwood Road, Assessors Map 86, Lot 11, and adjacent parcel designated by Assessor, Map 86, Lot 11. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Sure. Matt Arsenault, 29 Birchwood Road.
And what would you like to do?
So I'm putting an addition on my house starting in the spring. That permit has already been approved. I have the foundation permit ready to be picked up. So that addition is well within the 100-foot setback. And I've confirmed that with Joe. Joe's been out to the site a couple times. This portion of it really is to remove some trees that abut my property line, and there is a depression back there that Joe sort of identified as a wetland. So what I'm hoping to do is to remove some trees to open up the backyard, and I'm trying to do that 40 feet from those wetlands is what I'm hoping to do.
All right. Joe, do you have any questions or comments?
So, as the applicant said, this is a project proposed for clearing vegetation up to 40 feet away. I did do 1 or 2 site visits out there when there was a building permit pulled for the addition, which I measured the addition to be greater than 100 feet away from any nearby wetland resource areas. But the proposed vegetation cutting would be within 40 feet of the wetlands. The wetlands are pretty well defined, and I showed the applicant where the wetlands are, so there's a boundary to work off of where the wetlands are and where not to cut. So if the commission were to issue a negative determination, the commission may want to include conditions such as installing and maintaining sediment controls to include of either a stake straw wattle or silt fence around the area of construction as to prevent the deposition of sediment from construction activities into nearby wetland resource areas. Sediment controls shall remain in place until all areas of disturbed/loose soil and other erodible materials have been stabilized at the site. And 2, prior to any construction activity commencing, the following must be completed. The sediment controls shall be installed by the applicant or an agent of the applicant, and the conservation agent shall inspect and approve of the installed sediment controls.
Do you have a specific number of trees that you want to remove, or is it just anything in that general area that's marked out?
It's in that general vicinity, yeah. I'm going to work with my abutting neighbor just to make sure that, I work with him to leave a little bit of a buffer zone there. So I don't have an exact location or number of trees yet, but that general area is going to widen up the backyard.
And Joe, what is, for removing stumps, I thought we generally didn't want to do that, but if it's right where he's planning on building or very close, is there an issue for removing stumps?
I don't think so, as long as you have the sediment controls in place.
The stumps are just for in the 25 foot.
Yeah.
All right.
So if I have the sediment controls, I can pull them with an excavator? Yeah, okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? Not hearing anybody. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody from the public who would like to make a comment or ask a question, now is the time to do so. But I am not seeing anybody get up. So could I have a motion to close the public hearing? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And finally, could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thanks, guys.
Agenda item A, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, Civil Design Consultants, Inc. of Andover, Massachusetts, on behalf of Marburg 1777 LLC, 1777 Main Street, Assessors Map 85, Lot 1, DP file number 305-1168. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Hi, good evening. I'm Mira Cousins with Civil Design Consultants. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Marburg 1777 LLC for an ANRAD for the property located at 1777 Main Street. So I know we've been on the agenda for a few weeks now, so I thought I'd give you the rundown of where we stand at this point. So we filed the ANRAD application on October 20th. On November 14th, Joe, the town's consultant, Bill Manuel, and Maureen from Norse Environmental walked the site. There were a handful of wetland flags that needed to be adjusted based on that site walk. So I updated the site plan. I sent that over to Joe and Bill Manuel on November 29th. And then on December 5th, we received a review letter from Bill Manuel. It's my understanding that he is in agreement with all the updated wetland flag delineation, the riverfront area boundary, and the bordering lands subject to flooding with a base elevation of 87.3. So with that, I'll jump into the existing conditions of the property. The total area of the parcel is 34.9 acres and has frontage along Main Street. There's an existing one-story, 60,000 square foot shopping plaza building and associated parking area. The on-site resource areas were delineated by Norse Environmental in June and July of 2022. On-site resource areas include the bank of the perennial stream, the bordering vegetated wetlands, bordering land subject to flooding, and riverfront area. So Heath Brook, which is a perennial stream, is located along the rear property line. The 200-foot riverfront area associated with this brook covers approximately 6.7 acres of land along the western and southern portions of the site. And the wetlands cover approximately 13 acres of land on the property. So on the plan there, the green area is the wetland area. The striped area is the 200-foot riverfront area, and the blue dark line there is the floodplain delineation line. And the circled pink areas are the adjusted wetland flags based on the site walk. So with that, happy to take any questions.
All right. Joseph, do you have any?
So just to reiterate what the applicant had said, the wetland resource area boundaries that are being sought to be confirmed are BVW, bordering lands subject to flooding, and riverfront area. So, yeah, Bill Manuel, the third-party consultant that was involved, myself and Maureen of Norse did a site walk. As the plan shows, there really weren't that many alterations made to the wetland delineation. Bill Manuel did provide a review letter. Let's see. That was provided to the Conservation Department on December 5th, 2022. So in that letter, he confirmed the accuracy of how wetland delineations, or how the wetland delineation is shown on the most recent site plan, which is dated November 29th, 2022. He did note a potential vernal pool, which is mentioned in the letter, and I believe is marked by wetland flags 176A to 212A. There was also another potential vernal pool marked by Mass Mapper, but after, as indicated in Bill's review letter, he does not think that it is qualifies as a potential vernal pool. The other aspect of this site is that there's a stormwater management feature, which is essentially a drainage swale, kind of on the western portion of the property, or northern, based off that north arrow. That drainage feature was part of an order of conditions, DEP file 305-580. That order of conditions was issued in June 1998 for the construction of that stormwater management feature. It was based off the notice of intent associated with that order. It was meant to comply with the stormwater standards of the state. So basically, how the Wetland Protection Act reads is that if it was constructed, designed, installed after 1996, when the stormwater management policy went into effect, it's not considered a jurisdictional resource area. And although we don't, short of an as-built, it seems to be constructed as designed. So essentially, there's evidence to indicate that the stormwater management feature would not be jurisdictional because it was constructed as a stormwater management feature. So overall, Bill had confirmed the BVW boundary as shown on the most recent site plan, the elevation of bordering land subject to flooding, although he didn't confirm how it was portrayed on the plan because of the resolution and the scale of the site plan, and the riverfront area, in addition to identifying potential vernal pools. So if the commission were to issue an ORAD, it would be in reference to what was said regarding the stormwater management feature, assuming the commission agrees with that, and in reference to the most recent site plan, and in reference to Bill Manuel's review letter.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission?
What is the total acreage?
The entire site is 34.9 acres.
Okay, thank you.
Is anyone concerned with the stormwater management feature?
Are you concerned?
I'm not, but
Well, it was
I'm just-
constructed in 1998. It's kind of,
yeah, I spent a lot of time going through the regs.
it's kind of a day late and a dollar short.
I guess another thing to just note, as I discussed with you, is there appear to be, or there's, there appears to be other wetlands off-site near the entrance of the post office. But it's off-site, so that's just something to note for future development.
Okay.
All right, if there's no further questions or comments from the commission, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody who would like to get up and make a comment or ask a question, now's the time to do so. But not seeing anybody, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And now, because I messed up the determination of applicability, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, is that a approval, or is that a ratification of an order? Approve the order of resource
Yeah,
area
it
delineation?
would just be the approval, so like, same as a notice of intent.
All right, so in that case, could I have a motion to approve the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for civil design consultants? DEP file number 305-1169.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Agenda item L, public hearing, notice of intent, civil design consultants, Inc., on behalf of Wamsit Lanes LLC, 434 Main Street, assessors map 22, 69, and address behind 402, 434, and 442 Main Street, DEP file number 305-1165.
Good evening.
Could you please introduce yourselves for the record?
I'm Bill Hall with Civil Design Consultants, and with me is Dick Kuko from Woodland Design. I believe this is our opening hearing for this, even though it's been on the agenda for quite some time now, but I'll go over the project, what's existing out there, what we're looking to do. So this is 434 Main Street. It's Wamsit Lanes, and there's the existing building, and we're located at the rear of the building with our work here. At the rear of the building right now, there's an existing gravel parking lot, and there's a bordering vegetated wetland that's located to the east. So the existing gravel comes up to this property line more or less right now, and there's a fence along there, and some existing riprap and guardrail in this area. We had been before you a couple years ago to have that approved as a paved parking area. And what we're looking to do now is expand upon that previous approval. So we're including land now from the railway that abuts the property. They have an agreement to, is it to lease it or to purchase it, or
They're leasing it from
to lease the land and construct additional parking there for employees. It's a very similar stormwater design in general, but stormwater design as to what we had before, where we have a catch basin we have a catch basin in this area that's going into a subsurface drainage structure underneath the paved parking area, and then an outlet into the existing riprap. In this area to the east, we're proposing more guardrail and some removable bollards so that DPW can have access to the sewer manhole off the property, and also so that no snow is plowed into that resource area. We're showing snow storage on the complete opposite of the site. This is the limit of the buffer zone for reference, so our infiltration bed and catch basin are outside that. It's really a small portion of paving in this area relative to what's proposed out there. That said, about DPW, we do have some minor comments that we've addressed. We have not heard back on those comments, but I don't believe that we'll have an issue with that. And really, it doesn't pertain to work within the buffer zone anyways. We've done what we can to address everything in that letter. couple weeks ago, this was approved by planning, so that's all set. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those, or if Dick has anything to add.
Yeah, we also received the land disturbance permit, so we can continue to clear that land up in there. The area behind there, by paving it, was going to give us better water quality going into the wetland area. The advantage of having that land, besides providing additional parking spaces for employees at Wamisit Lanes, is it gives us a much larger area for snow storage, so that we don't lose parking spaces. We would put snow behind the building, and it would take up parking spaces for employees, and made the deliveries back there a little, cumbersome. So now, having the snow storage area away from the employee parking and away from the delivery areas makes it a much easier to access the property, makes the deliveries much more manageable, and it's just a lot tidier to keep the snow away from the wetland area. Bill mentioned the access to the sewer manhole, which is off of our property, but we did accommodate them by putting a removable bollard in that guardrail area, so that I assume if the town had to go in there to fix that, they would remove the bollard. They'd put down those big wooden planks that we see all over town, like the power company does, and that they'd be able to get out to that manhole. Something that's not really germane to this application, but you'll be happy to know that DPW asked us to do a test on the sewer, because the existing sewer is very deep, and they were concerned about infiltration, and we had that tested, and there's no infiltration of groundwater into the sewer line. So, not that it's part of the order, but I just thought it would be an interesting fact for you to know and feel comfortable about.
Right. Joseph, do you have any questions or comments?
So essentially, it involves the installation of additional riprap with obviously additional paving. And associated with the additional paving implies, additional stormwater to manage. So what the commission had previously been waiting on was a letter from the engineering division that confirmed that the project at least complied with the mass stormwater standards, since that's within the jurisdiction of the commission, if it's within the jurisdictional area of the commission. So that has been confirmed. I think the most recent site plan is slightly different from the previous one, where you provide that gap and there's no riprap anymore in that area. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And we took out the planning board asked us to remove one parking space, because they thought just made it easier for traffic to come in through there. But as far as the paved area goes, it's the same, and
Okay.
the stormwater is the same.
Okay.
If you wanted to reference the revision date if you see it fit to approve it, I would probably reference this plan with the revision date, so it coincides with the land disturbance permit and the planning board permit.
Right. What is the last revision to this?
December 14th.
Okay. So, the commission, it seems pretty straightforward. They propose the erosion and sediment controls, I believe, right there. Is there a detail on the plan for that, or is that on a separate sheet?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a 12-inch sock or greater?
Yeah, 12 inch.
So my comments were based off of the previous site plan, but it seems like the only thing that changed was just that gap with no riprap anymore. So the commission can, if they would like, issue the order of conditions with the standard conditions, number 1 through number 4, and number 9 through number 19. But other than that, I don't have issues.
I just have a quick question. The manhole cover, there's a note saying that it was covered with gravel, and then the gravel was removed, and then it was covered over again. Will that be essentially a non-issue because it's paved?
Yeah,
or is that?
once it's paved, will be brought up to grade. Every time you plow, the gravel gets moved around, so once it's in a paved location, it's on the plan to be raised to grade.
It's not the one that's being
Not-
given access?
No,
It's a different
that's
one.
actually not even on our property, that.
Oh, all right, yeah.
But it just was convenient for us to give them access to it, so we did.
Yeah.
I just have one, I mean, you answered my question with the snow storage, you have more of a place, but where you're not supposed to store snow, do you have a sign up saying no snow
They
storage?
can post one. I would suggest you just put that in the order.
Is to what?
Post a sign on that guardrail area, no snow storage.
No snow storage. Remember the issue we had with
Okay.
the car guy?
Oh,
So just
Say along the guardrail.
on the guardrail? Okay. Like, do you want like 3 signs, 1 sign? What's sufficient for you guys?
What's the width?
The width of,
The
Length
track?
of the guardrail, I think.
The length of the guardrail.
well, so there's a retaining wall that's existing that has a guardrail that goes across the top of it.
Yeah.
And we're gonna tie into that, come up and through this area. I don't know the exact length.
All right, so
Say 2 or,
2 or 3 signs?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Make-
probably, it's
make-
probably 80 feet. Probably
Roughly.
80 feet, yeah.
Yeah, maybe 3.
Okay.
I think that's,
That's reasonable.
yeah.
Yeah, I think just.
I just don't want to
no
have the same
storage.
issue we had
Yeah.
with someone else, where we're back again.
Right, because it's a different
Told them
plowing
not to do it,
contractor,
they did.
yeah. Yep.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Glad there's no infiltration, so, good.
All right. Once again, this is a public hearing, so if there's anybody from the public who would like to make a comment or ask a question, now's the time to do so. But not seeing anybody, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion to approve the notice of intent as discussed at this meeting?
So moved with the conditions that were also discussed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, agenda item N, public hearing, notice of intent, Hancock Associates of Danvers, Massachusetts, on behalf of Cronin Shield Management Corporation, Marblehead, Massachusetts, Quail Run, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, Assessors Map 62, Lot 15, DP file number 305-1171. Is there anybody here for that? Were we expecting anybody for that?
They didn't provide me notice that they were going to continue the project, although I know that they still have some compliance information to provide, so.
All right. If that's the case, could I have a motion to continue notice of intent DEP file number 305-1171 to the next available meeting?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Agenda item N, public hearing, notice of intent, Johns G. Crow Associates, Inc., of Bedford, New Hampshire, on behalf of Raytheon Technologies, Inc., of Andover, Massachusetts, 100 Apple Hill Drive, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, Assessors Map 38, Lot 2, DP file number not yet assigned.
Good evening.
Please introduce yourself for the record.
Sure. My name is Charles Scott Doty. I go by Scott, if you address me, my middle name usually, except my mother calls me Charles. I think it's probably be helpful to give you a little bit of history, really briefly, on the site and catch up, and I know Joe has some items also that we need to clean up on this. But first of all, let me tell you, I've been working in Massachusetts for close to 45 years in projects like, mostly commercial projects, and I'm surprised that this is probably the first time in front of this commission. John Crow Associates has done a lot of work in civil engineering, landscape architecture, and throughout eastern Massachusetts. Some of the projects, just so you know our background, I think it's important, as we're not a consultant in front of you. Maybe some of the projects that well, I mean, one project that you might be familiar with in the general area is Minuteman Park in Andover, which did all the master planning, civil engineering, landscape architecture for that park. So we have a broad range of experience. In light of that, maybe under such short notice putting together this filing, they might be surprised with some of the things that perhaps we need to add to this filing for the commission. The subject of this work are two culverts that I did bring some additional pictures. I've got 3 sets of them, so you can also share them also and walk you through them a little bit. But these are culverts that were built in the late 70s or early 80s, probably under the old Hatch Act. Some of you might be familiar with the early stages of the Wetland Protection Act. Probably to set the stage for the overall development of this property for Raytheon in a couple stages through the 80s. They are metal, corrugated metal pipes that have started to fall apart, causing some caving along the edges of the 2 driveways that go over them. One is to the north driveway. These 2 major driveways service access to all the major parking fields on the campus there at Apple Hill. I think in your cover letter you might be able to see a small locus plan that shows sort of the relationship of where these elements are, where these culverts are. Well, I guess these are about 40 plus years old, and they need to be replaced with culverts that could last maybe 100 years before we have to see each other again on this. The idea is to excavate and replace them with coated corrugated pipes so that they last several more decades than these 2 did. One of the interesting things about this is an intermittent stream. It drains a lot of that area up, I think the school, and I forget the name of the school that's north of this campus, this Raytheon's campus here. You might be able to tell from you don't know either. Yeah, so that area, that wetland area and some of the neighborhood there drains down through the site, and it is intermittent. I'd say that I think I've only seen water running through there once after a major storm. The area is rather controlled, as most Raytheon facilities. My client, your applicant, Raytheon Technologies now, they've got quite a significant security fence around the campus. It's not a wildlife per se area. There's not a lot of that kind of activity. It's a rather maintained, and might characterize it as a manufactured, located drainage channel. Looks somewhat natural because it's overgrown, of course, over the years. The work of the concern for the commission primarily would be the work that's immediately in the areas of the land underwater and the bank and head walls at both ends of each set of pipes. And though the 2 culvert situations are a little bit different because one is rather what I might call a piece of cake, the northernmost one, where it's basically at grade, and you can get access easily to the entire program. Whereas the lower culvert is set up in a situation where it's a great deal of fill that was placed here over the years to create these plateaus of parking that these driveways access. But I think we characterize this not as an immediate emergency, but an imminent emergency to replace these so that we can prevent any sediments or any major issues, because there is a rather significant and a nice wetland down below in this area between the Raytheon property and 495, which is further south, southeast, whatever, below the site. We have given a lot of thought to that difficult crossing in terms of requiring and talking to potential contractors that would do that work, that it would be done with ensuring so that they could excavate down, because there's some depths that they need to get down to close to 15, 16 feet in order to place this pipe. So they need to get a new plateau they can work on. And in terms of phasing and protection, though the goal would be to work on this these culverts at the ideal times of the year, which might be right about now when we're between seasons, so to speak. We've been very blessed, I guess, with the weather we've had lately, but also during the dry season perhaps, but not during the mud and wet seasons. Some of the preparation for this job would be, one, only schedule one of these operations at a time, get it taken care of, get it stabilized before continuing on with the other. Also, an insignificant portion of that would be to be prepared for doing the work in a forecasted dry season, getting it done in short order, but also having the fail-safe of setting up compost roll, set of kind of dams for potential pooling, in which we might have to do some bypass pumping if there's a surprise storm during the work. We have a rather robust, I would say, erosion and sediment control plan and a list of stages and phases. I don't know if the commission had a chance to look at those yet, but in order to do the work, because it's going to have to be orchestrated, I think, especially this lower one, quite well. Because of the rush to get this in, of course, we utilized the historic wetland delineation on this site. I think it's been used on this, I've been informed it's been used on this project site for quite a while, though I think it has, I think the best delineation of the bank out there and the limitations of the intermittent stream are the contours that are picked up in quite a bit of detail here by our surveyor. Though Joe has asked for some additional information, and I'd be happy to address that as we go along. Needless to say, we're headed towards a continuation of this hearing, requesting a continuation, because I don't think the commission necessarily, unless there's broad differences, maybe not ready to make a decision on this work. But maybe I can, if I keep on talking, you might not want to hear me ever again. The couple of questions have come up and that Joe had sent to me, and I apologize that I hadn't been able to answer them yet. It's that time of the year, and we also tried to schedule a site visit in which my principal contact at Raytheon was out of state, unable to do it, and apologize again on that, but I think we could set something up in the short, near future, and I'd like to have as many commission members that could join us. That'd be great. Because I think it's really something you want to get your eyeballs on to see how, might I characterize it, simple most of this work is, but how complicated one piece of it is. Especially this lower outlet, where we propose to do the partial excavation, construct a cofferdam for, again, fail-safe situation to prevent that, protect that wetland that's down below. And then sort of reverse when the pipe gets put in, we get back up to a certain elevation of grade, then we can remove that cofferdam made out of gravel, and it becomes the outfall and the energy dissipation for the bottom end of that culvert. This is a limited project. We are looking for a waiver because we are doing work, obviously, in the wetland in order to do this repair work. Joe asked what category of that, and I would clearly put this in a K category, where it really has to do with, dare I call it routine, but the wetland, the regulations call it routine maintenance and repair of road drainage structures. This is generally, when we've had to do this in the past over the years, that's the limited project category we usually have it in. Notwithstanding that, I think it's important to address, I agree with, and I think I can do that in a short narrative that I should forward to the commission on some of the issues related to the questions that have to do with the Massachusetts stream crossing standards. Some of them are readily apparent. Most of those standards are established to protect wildlife and fisheries and such. This site really doesn't have that aspect to it because of its guarded nature and because of its isolation, so to speak, from wildlife areas surrounded by acres of pavement and very large office buildings. But I will address those for the commission. But you can see there's a few hundred, I don't have the numbers at the top of my head. I know they're on this L2 plan, but several hundred square feet here and there on at either end of these culverts that need to be disturbed and then rebuilt. And most of that rebuilding to create those resource areas, they are resource areas no matter what they're built on, but it's mostly rock. It's a rock base, armored areas and slopes, and in some cases head walls that need to be rebuilt, with the exception of the upper end of the lower culvert, which has a very clear driveway access that must have been placed, and we're reusing it. It must have been placed there just maybe for some thought that this work might need to be done in the future. It just seems to have been just perfectly situated for that. So with that, Mr. Chairman, and if I think I forgot something, you can be sure that I'll raise my hand. But I'd like to have get any input from Joe and the commission that you may have.
All right, so, Joe, do you have anything to ask?
Yeah, my comments are just what was sent to you. So I think, the commission has a copy of those questions. So if you just want to take the time to just respond to those, then we can review it, or the commission can also review it at the next meeting. That's fine.
Sure.
But those comments are largely just regulatory based, as you touch upon, Massachusetts stream crossing standards, which limited project status you're applying for, whether that wetland delineation was done. It seems like you're relying off a historic one, but again, just responding to that, and we can review it. And again, it could be something where the site visit kind of helps me with that.
Yeah. I think it will. All right.
So again, it's more or less just.
I do believe I can respond to those in short order and get those in front of the board so they have some reading material through the holidays. And I know you probably don't have enough of that. Thank you, Joe.
And you don't have a DP file number yet?
No, we don't yet, no. I think they've been moving and a couple of things there. I think the end of the holiday season, I think they generally, my experience is that they're slow around this time of year to issue. So,
I didn't even see it registered in their system. So
Okay.
it might behoove you to send another application.
I think we best, I'll follow up on that.
Yeah.
At least my staff has reported that it was filed, so maybe they took it to the wrong place, right? Yeah, we'll get that taken care of. I did send a check here, but I hope you just took care of that, just destroyed it, thank you. Their check accidentally got sent in with the town's filing fees.
All right.
It's nobody's fault but mine in that case, by the way.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
I have none at this time. I'm sure I will after we read the comments.
This is a public hearing. I will open it up to the public, but we will not be closing the public hearing tonight. I'm not seeing anybody. All right, so I think,
When is your next meeting, Mr. Chairman?
January 11th.
January 11th.
January 11th.
So does that work for you, or?
Yes, it does.
All right. If that's the case, could I have a motion to continue this notice of intent to the next available meeting? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack, right. I just get, I was greenhorn, but
Only a few of us all the
things were
time.
different, weren't they?
Quill run. Oh, all right. All right. Agenda item O, minor modification, woodland design, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, 40 Long Meadow Road, assessors map 26, lot 124, DEP file number 305-1159. And once again, could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Dick Cuco from Woodland Design, for a minor modification on 40 Long Meadow Road. So the commission, we went through quite a, okay, come on now. We went through quite a lengthy permitting process on this.
Do you want me to turn on the lights so you can see that better?
I can see it.
I can see it. If it's better for the video, by all means.
No, up to you guys.
So we went through a lengthy approval process for this, as you recall, and one of the things that has come up is that, I don't think I can get my pointer to work. We had three issues that we wanted to discuss with you. Is one, there's a condition in the wetland replication plan that says that the work has to be done within a certain time frame, and that the replication area needed to be done prior to the construction of the home or any of that nature. What happened is that was in July. There's been some issues with the closing of the property, so here we are now in December, almost January. It's not the ideal situation to do the replication area. So what we were suggesting is that we would ask the commission to allow that work to be done. It was I believe it was note 8 on the plan that said no work, no building permit would be issued until the replication plan, to the replication area had been completed. We're requesting that be changed, that no request for a certificate of occupancy can be made until that replication area is been completed. What our plan is to go in and clear out the replication area right away, because we have to have a culvert to get in. In order to get into the property to do that replication area, we have to install the culvert. So that work has to be done anyways to get in there. So what we would do is while we were in there, we would get that area ready. We'd hog it out, we'd stockpile the hydric material, and we'd have it ready for when the planting season comes, April, May, June, whatever the different species are, at which time we could install the plantings. But given that if we don't, unless we have a really crazy winter, we could start work on the home and start work on the installation of the utilities. This is not cooperating. Oh, yeah, here we go. So what we did is we have an alternate plan that instead of tying into town water and having that water line come up the driveway, we're putting a well in. This applicant has used the well in the last few homes that he's built, and the homeowners seem to like it better. They still have to pay a sewer fee. They put a meter on the well, but that's another issue. So that gave us the opportunity to run the sewer down the driveway, because on the previous proposal, you have to have separation between the sewer line and the water service by 10 feet, and it didn't afford us the opportunity to do that. So Joe had contacted me today saying that the DPW would like to see a profile of the sewer line to make sure it's not sticking out of the ground, which in of itself isn't a problem. So what we're asking, though, is that the commission, if you could, allow the minor modification to change that note that says the replication area must be completed prior to a request for an occupancy permit, not just the issuing of the occupancy permit, but we wouldn't be able to actually request it until that work was done. Another issue that has come up is that with that condition, we can't get financing. The lender says, you know, if you can't get a building permit till this is done, you know, we're not going to lend you the money. If you already have the house up, then we know it's going to get done, because you're going to be into us for a sizable amount of money, and you're going to make sure that it gets done. There was another small issue that was in the replication plan, and I kind of pirated it from the state, so I'm kind of kicking myself there. It said that at least 60 days prior to the installation of the order, you submit to the commission the approval of the approved source of the soil, compost, and what have you. We would think that we'd like to drop that down to 30 days because the season is so short, the growing season and the planting season, that if we have to submit it 60 days prior, we may miss that planting season, where if we submit it 30 days prior, and Joe's always very good at turning these things around, so, you know, I'm sure it's not a large burden on him, but that would say, okay, if we submit it and it's approved, we can still get those particular plants that we need to put into the area. So, pardon me. So, Joe's questions were based on the submittal. It seems that there would be a completion of the wetland application, and what I had said that the sequence would change, that we would have that area ready to go right at the beginning. As soon as we put that culvert in and get in, we'd have that area ready to go. The phasing for condition 3, as I just explained, is based on when the plants are available. And item 3 would be to, you know, change the sequence for that replication area as outlined in my return letter to Joe dated December 13th. So now it comes to the issue of the DPW asking for the profile on the sewer. I think that if the commission felt that this was a non-substantial change, that you could be comfortable conditioning it either way, because you've already approved the wetland crossing going through there. If the DPW is satisfied with our alternate sewer layout, that's much, it's half of the replication area that we have to deal with, because we don't have to deal with this area down coming in off the left front corner of the lot. So when you flip that over, you see that whole area goes away. So I think from an environmental point of view, not having the sewer go cross-country through the wetlands would be a far superior design. And let's say, assume that somewhere down the road there was a leak or crack or compromise in the sewer line. Well, it wouldn't be going to the wetland area. That would have to be dug up again. It's going to be under the driveway. There'll be a lot more clean out. So, but for some reason, we don't know, can't speak for DPW. So I think the commission, could be comfortable saying that approve the request that we're making in my December 13th letter and say either the original plan for the sewer design or the alternate plan, whichever DPW allows. I don't know if I explained myself clearly enough on that or not, but if I didn't, I apologize.
Good, you had
Yeah, so I guess just discussing one issue at a time. So the 60-day to the 30-day, I don't see an issue with that at all. As far as the order, how it was written and discussed was, there is a special condition that's pretty explicit in saying that no wetland impact shall be made until the replication area is constructed. However, from like a practical perspective, it kind of makes sense that they need to cross the wetland in order to get to the replication area. I think that's kind of reasonable, and I guess maybe that was just missed, but.
Yeah, I never talked to a contractor before I did that. He said, he said, I can't jump over there.
So, at the end of the day, I do like the idea that it's tied to an occupancy, so there's still some incentive to complete the replication area. I would imagine that when you say complete the replication area, that would mean grading and plantings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. I like that.
I think you also have two things, because if he gets his occupancy, he still has to come back for certificate of compliance.
Yes.
So you have a two for that.
Yeah, yep.
And I think we said that even with the certificate of compliance, it has to survive 2 growing seasons. So just hypothetically, let's say we're here in August or September for the request for the certificate of compliance. If the plantings are done in April, May, by September, you'll see that if they're going to die, they usually die like right away. But then you do have that in the condition that it says that has to survive 2 growing seasons. So I think you have a safeguard there. And if they allow us to run the sewer without going to the wetlands, then the amount of new plantings that we put in is also cut in half. So, it would be a lot easier for that area to rejuvenate.
So,
Quick question, the southwest replication area, does that go away if you put the sewer pipe?
No, because we're still replicating for the crossing,
The driveway is.
for the driveway.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. So what we did was we did it almost like 2 to 1.
Okay.
But we're keeping it at 2 to 1, even though the temporary alteration is.
Yeah, I just remember, I thought there was a sewer tie-in over there
Yeah.
originally, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what that was,
Yeah, and the other thing it does is it helps us too, because we'll have more cover over the sewer pipe, and it won't interfere with the rain garden.
so the last thing is the sewer change. I just heard from the engineering division, they had some concerns about the elevations. So that's it, but obviously, if that plan were to work, it's obviously better for wetlands because there's less impact. So it's up to the commission on whether to address that until DPW, or if they want to just assume.
You're contingent on that.
yeah, I'd be okay with, as long as they're good with the elevations.
And if they're not, we build this.
Right.
So the only thing I would say is if, so assuming engineering is fine with the elevations in that plan that was proposed, just to maintain just that sediment control around there, because I think on the new plan it's not shown, but. so
Yeah, I think I have, I added it along the edge of the roadway.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
Yep.
Because now we're going to be we're going to be excavating for the sewer line there, so I added that silt fence along the edge of, be like right on the edge of the pavement.
Okay. So it would be, the minor modifications would be addressing special condition number 3 in the order and allowing the impacts to the wetlands as shown on the plan in order to access the replication plan. The 30-day to the 60-day, or the 60-day to the 30-day. There's one. The sewer, so contingent on DPW and engineering being okay with the elevations that were shown. What was the
Occupancy.
Oh, yeah, and then tying it into the replication area being completed, which means, final grade as designed, plantings as designed prior to occupancy.
Right to application of occupancy.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a minor modification, so it's not, so it's whether the commission, it's still up to the commission whether they would think this warrants enough to amend the permit, or this is just kind of like an understanding of how to proceed.
I would go with minor modification, because of the fact that the less impact on the wetlands for the sewer.
Right, I think the sewer is a win-win.
And it's pretty obvious that you can't build a house on an island if you can't get there. That's all I have.
I'm good if you guys are.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense.
I like the idea of the tying it to the
Yep.
I can't say that word.
Little leverage, right?
All right, so if there's no further discussion, could I have a motion to approve the minor modification?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Great, thank you very much, appreciate it. Hope everybody has a great holiday.
That was the last one. Any old business or new business?
I guess on old business, just up to date the commission. So we've met 3 times on the bylaws. We have one more meeting tomorrow. Might be our last one, so hope maybe next meeting we'll have something to present. Okay. Potentially.
I can put this on the meeting for, in January or February, but we have MACC dues coming up for fiscal year 2024. They provide, the dues include like some reduced costs for some of the classes that are kind of helpful for understanding the Wetland Protection Act and all that good stuff. I didn't have time to put together, to distribute this, but there's just some utility maintenance exemptions from National Grid. I reviewed it with them to make sure that, I met the exemption of their utility maintenance. It seems fine with me. I can,
Yeah, if we're not nice to them, we wouldn't have light to read the
But
documents.
I think it was just a courtesy. They said, I had some questions, but they said it's kind of just, it's outside of the 100-foot, but they just thought for any incidentals, they might just throw me a letter. So if there's no issues with that, I just won't even bother putting it on the next meeting. Also, National Grid provided us a letter for their yearly operational plan and integrated vegetation management. So basically, you have a big right-of-way through wetlands, you need to maintain vegetation around it because you don't want trees and stuff falling onto the power lines, so they have to maintain it. And this just kind of provides, notification to towns, commissions, Board of Health, whatever, just notifying them that it's going to be done, applications of herbicides, maybe some vegetation management, like cutting trees down or whatever, as necessary. But we have opportunity to comment, but that's it.
All right, if nobody else has any new business to discuss,
Nothing.
do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Happy holidays. We'll see you next year.
Meeting's over.